into the rest of Latin America?
Well, I would say actually into the entire Western Hemisphere, not just Latin America. And I felt it was important to get somebody's perspective as a legitimately elected official from Venezuela, because some of the disinformation that's been thrown out in the past 48 hours, and obviously for a long time prior to that, makes me just shake my head at how some people have bought complete untrue narratives with regards to Maduro, Venezuela in general, the relationship with Hezbollah, Iran, China, North Korea, Russia. I mean, it's truly made it like a modern day Cuba versus the Bay of Pigs, of course, in the early 1960s. So with that being said, Venezuela was being propped up by both Russian and Chinese military gear. And it doesn't take a whole lot of searching to discover that most countries who've bought Chinese military gear have been issued either huge refunds or additional gear for free because of its failure, especially in Africa. And if you look at what happened in Venezuela on Friday night, it's another strong indicator of that. This is a really, really long article, so bear with me. I might skip over a couple parts, but it's going to take a minute to get through this. So Beijing's shield fails Venezuela's strongest air defense in South America, collapses in U.S. military action. For years, the Venezuelan military poured vast sums into acquiring Chinese-made military equipment, building what it claimed was the most modern defense system in South America. At its core was an air defense network centered on the JY-27 counter-stealth radar, once believed capable of effectively countering U.S. stealth aircraft, such as the F-22. Meanwhile, its Marine Corps, equipped with the VN-16 and VN-18 amphibious armored vehicles, was widely regarded as a formidable armored force in the region. However, during the latest U.S. military operation, these Chinese-built systems suffered what has been described as catastrophic paralysis. Radar systems were blinded in the first wave of electronic warfare, while heavy ground equipment lacking air superiority and protective cover failed to deliver expected combat performance and was destroyed or abandoned. Military analysts say this highlights the significant technological gap that still exists when Chinese weapon systems face top-tier opponents like the U.S. military in complex electromagnetic and precision strike environments. There's a ton of stuff out there. There's lots more to read in this. But regarding China's military products as being a paper tiger of sorts. So if you go back in time to the Cold War, when that ended, we discovered that the Russians were really, really good at making something work once, but they weren't very good at making it work a second and third time. So when we saw demonstrations or we got intelligence that a particular weapon was working, in reality, that just wasn't the case. Well, China is just as bad, if not even worse. They're somewhat of a paper tiger when it comes to the topic of military gear, military equipment. Y'all may remember we've discussed multiple times how the Chinese aircraft carriers, other than they have a very small container ship, it was a Russian container ship that they converted to their first aircraft carrier. It's so small that they have to make a choice between either having half of the munitions or half of the fuel, but it's not long enough for the planes to carry both. So the next two aircraft carriers they made, we were able to capture, holy crap, I'm tongue-tied today. We were able to capture satellite imagery of the decks breaking laterally across both ships, and somewhere in the range of 12 to 18 inches, by the way. So they covered those up really quickly while they were repairing them. But then we got some footage of J-35s, which is a rip-off our F-35, going off the ski jump basically at the end of the aircraft carriers and then going bloop and falling straight into the water. Now, they've officially put their third aircraft carrier in service as of December. But again, their gear is not on par with ours. And we've embargoed a lot of technology. One of them, and it's not the same EMP that you're familiar with, is the electromagnetic pulse that launches planes off of aircraft carriers. It is not an EMP, like an electric burst from a nuclear blast or anything like that. It's basically fires the planes off at a high rate of speed. That's been embargoed for decades, and we don't share that with any other countries. So they have to come up with their own technology. So the Chinese have finally come up with some knockoff, but you got to remember something with the Chinese. Their culture is very different than our culture in that they frown upon innovation. They think of R&D innovation as being akin to gambling. It's risky. Don't do it. So take somebody else's product and steal the IP. And that's where that comes from in their culture. The problem is when they can't get their hands on all of the information, they end up with inferior products. So let's move on with this article here. A paper defense line, why Venezuela's Chinese weapons proved helpless against the U.S. military. As U.S. operations in Venezuela advanced rapidly, the steel defense line of South America, once expected to mount fierce resistance, collapsed in a remarkably short time. The conflict has not only reshaped Venezuela's situation, but also subjected its main arms supplier, China, to an embarrassing technical reckoning. For years, Venezuela was viewed as a showcase for Chinese military equipment in Latin America. Yet real combat results indicate that systems promoted as capable of countering the West proved extremely fragile when confronted by the U.S. military system of systems warfare. The counter-stealth myth shattered. Radar systems go blind first. At the heart of Venezuela's air defense network was a radar array produced by China Electronics Technology Group. Venezuelan forces fielded the JYL-1 3-coordinate long-range surveillance radar and the JY-27 meter wave radar, often touted as a stealth killer. Officials had boasted that the JY-27 could lock onto U.S. F-22 and F-35 stealth fighters from hundreds of kilometers away and guide Russia-made S-300 missiles to intercept them. Combat results, however, show that within hours of the operation's start, the United States Armed Forces launched an intense electronic warfare offensive. On-site assessments indicate Venezuelan radar screens were immediately flooded by powerful jamming, followed by precise strikes from anti-radiation missiles. The so-called counter-stealth capability never came into play. The entire air defense command system was effectively blinded at the outset of hostilities. Ground armed forces, or armored forces, I should say, an abandoned steel tide. Venezuela's Marine Corps had long been considered South America's best equipped amphibious force, largely thanks to comprehensive Chinese mechanized equipment. Its frontline assets included the VN-16 amphibious assault vehicle with a 105 millimeter gun, the VN-18 infantry fighting vehicle, and the VN-4 Rhinoceros armored vehicle, widely issued to the National Guard. Fire support was provided by the SR-5 multiple rocket launcher system. Combat experience showed that without air cover and radar early warning, these costly amphibious vehicles became easy targets for U.S. attack aircraft and drones. Battlefield footage indicates many VN series vehicles were not destroyed in tank-to-tank combat, but were abandoned by crews after strikes on beaches or highways. The SR-5 rocket artillery, lacking target data links, was unable to deliver effective strikes against U.S. troop concentrations. The absence of air and naval power. Venezuela's Air Force operating K-8W trainer light attack aircraft was entirely grounded after the U.S. secured air superiority. Designed mainly to intercept light narcotics aircraft, these planes had no survivability in modern air combat. Patrol vessels armed with C-802A anti-ship missiles likewise saw their capabilities rendered ineffective under overwhelming U.S. battlefield awareness and electronic suppression. Expert analysis, a comprehensive defeat of Chinese-style command and control. Military observers argue Venezuela's failure was not due to the quality of any single weapon, but rather a comprehensive defeat of Chinese-style command and control systems, while China supplied advanced hardware such as radars, armored vehicles, and air defense systems. Its ability to integrate them into a jam-resistant, highly survivable operational network still has significant room for improvement. So with that being said, it gives a pretty good example of the assistance from the Chinese and, to a lesser extent, the Russians, although there is a lot of Russian military gear in Venezuela. The Iranian piece really revolves through, besides oil deals, those sort of things, the IRGC, and the IRGC, by extension, Hezbollah. Outside of the Middle East, the IRGC refers to Hezbollah, which is one of their constructs, as Unit 910. That doesn't mean it's one unit. We had somebody a couple of years ago when I mentioned that send a nasty gram off saying, you guys are idiots if you think Hezbollah has one unit around the entire world. And it's like, wow, okay. A lot of angry, uninformed people out there. Unit 910 is just a general reference to all Hezbollah around the world outside of the Middle East. The difference between Unit 910 and Hezbollah in the Middle East is that they are tasked with funding their own operations, which is why we know from Jeff MD, who's on my podcast virtually every night of the week, and our mutual good friend Don Mann, who was a 20-year Navy SEAL and a 23-year CIA case officer, that we had intelligence on Hezbollah hooking up with the Venezuelans and the Mexicans in particular in the 1990s. And we even had evidence at that point in time, intelligence, I should say, of over 300 Hezbollah soldiers in America, kind of the beginning of this plan that they put together. There's all kinds of other things that have gone on financially and to a lesser extent militarily with North Korea, Cuba, Belarus, etc. But the way I look at Venezuela, and we've been saying this for quite some time, is it essentially was the nexus of putting the enemy on our doorstep in our hemisphere. And maybe we didn't have nukes pointing at us like we did in Cuba, but a multi-decade strategy of building them up, especially under Maduro, put some serious, let's say, antagonism in our backyard, way too close for comfort. So let's move on to the next one here, because Marco Rubio does a great job in this interview. Eric Doherty says, holy smokes, in an incredible moment, Senator Marco Rubio declares the Western Hemisphere is ours. Russia, China, and Iran must get out. Welker, why does the U.S. need Venezuelan oil? Rubio, why does China need the oil? Russia, Iran? This is the West. This is where we live. I'm not going to read the rest. I'll let you hear it for yourself. 1 minute, 22 seconds. Great answer, by the way. I can't stand this broad, by the way. She's such a textbook mouthpiece.
States need to take over the Venezuelan oil industry.
Well, we don't need to. First of all, let me go back up. We don't need Venezuela's oil. We have plenty of oil in the United States. What we're not going to allow is for the oil industry in Venezuela to be controlled by adversaries of the United States. You have to understand, why does China need their oil? Why does Russia need their oil? Why does Iran need their oil? They're not even in this continent. This is the Western Hemisphere. This is where we live. And we're not going to allow the Western Hemisphere to be a base of operation for adversaries, competitors, and rivals of the United States.
Have specific oil companies.
We also want to see that oil and the proceeds from it. Hold on. We want to see the oil proceeds of that country benefit the people of Venezuela. Why have 8 million people left Venezuela? 8 million, the single largest mass migration probably in modern history, left Venezuela since 2014, because all the wealth of that country was stolen to the benefit of Maduro and his cronies in the regime, but not to the benefit of people of Venezuela. You know how destabilizing 8 million migrants is? The number one fear that Brazil has, that Colombia has, that all these countries in the region have about what's happening in Venezuela and our involvement is they're afraid of another mass migration event. That's what they fear. This is deeply destabilizing stuff. It's not going to continue to happen. They are not going to come from outside of our hemisphere, destabilize our region in our own backyard, and us have to pay the price for it. Not under President Trump.
Let's talk big picture.
I'm telling you, I got to give Marco Rubio credit. He is probably the biggest surprise in this Trump cabinet. And there's some surprises that aren't necessarily good as far as overperforming, way beyond what my expectations were of him. He's done a great job. Hats off to him. So moving on to the next one, I've got a few things pulled up in X where I just did like a general search. So in this example, Venezuela, China, Russia, Iran, to see what would come up. And it's actually pretty interesting where I'm just touch on a few of these things. So Rubio declares an end to foreign meddling in Venezuela after Maduro capture. Next one below that, just for the people in the back who are not very informed and who tell you USA just wants oil, for the past 25 years, China, Russia, Iran, and Cuba, not the U.S., have siphoned Venezuela's oil through debt for oil deals, seized assets, and propped up an authoritarian regime. China alone locked Venezuela into tens of billions in oil-backed loans that produced little to no revenue for Venezuelans. Russia and Iran kept the regime afloat. Cuba embedded security and intelligence in exchange for subsidized oil. Before Chavez and Maduro, Venezuela sold most of its oil, pardon me, to the United States, and the country was far more stable and prosperous. The collapse began years before U.S. oil sanctions, which were imposed after PDVSA was gutted. Elections were dismantled and civil society was crushed. This wasn't anti-imperialism. It was authoritarian extraction. And it's kind of a funny meme there of all those different groups stealing the oil from Venezuela. So the next one up, for the people crying about Maduro, this is a map of who recognized him as the legitimate leader of Venezuela. Only Iran, China, Russia, North Korea, Madagascar, Bolivia, Nicaragua, and Cuba. All of these nations will find out soon enough, I reckon so. So that little black dot where my cursor is, of course, that's Venezuela. And then you have a bunch of our adversaries marked in green. Moving down from there, the arrest of communist dictator Nicolás Maduro signals doomsday for the globalist left. Venezuela is a proxy for China, Iran, and Russia, used to terrorize the U.S. with fentanyl, mass illegal immigration, gangs, and cartels. And millions of Americans have died as a result of this. So this one here, you know what? I'm going to rewind this because this is on, of all places, CNN. So Gunther Eagleman, wow. Even CNN admits Russia, China, Iran are privately impressed by U.S. military dominance in Venezuela. Finding, fixing, kidnapping Maduro and his wife alive, 0 casualties. None of these militaries could pull this off. How many times have you heard me say that nobody is trained like our Delta team to capture people, to free hostages, and only kill the bad guys or who's not the target? That's a great example. Delta team went in and extracted Maduro and his wife at what was supposed to be a formidable adversary for us. Hats off to those guys in Delta team. They are on a level just above and beyond. Now, we have lots of special forces that can go in and just blow the shit out of everything. That's not the same thing as going in and strategically withdrawing people. 1 minute and 4 seconds.
Tell me how this news is being received in Iran. How's it being received in Russia? How's it being received in China?
All three predictably will deplore this kind of activity publicly. Privately, they will be impressed with the military capability here. I would argue none of those three militaries could have executed an operation like this. And again, we tend to just breeze by this. But the idea of finding, fixing, kidnapping, taking him out alive with his wife, no casualties on the side of the U.S., that's an extraordinary military operation. So I think while there will be a lot of public condemnation of the United States, predictably from those three nations, privately they'll be saying to themselves, that's a very capable military. That's not a bad thought to pop up in Beijing, Moscow, and Tehran these days.
So I think of it this way. those three countries have posed a massive security risk to us being on our doorstep. But due to this operation, we've cut them off at the knees before they got to a strength that rivaled ours. I don't know how many more years it would have taken them to actually make their stuff work against us, but I'm very thankful that we got to this when we did. So moving into the second segment, Maduro was a huge player in the flood of drugs and crime in America. We know that he's the head of the cartel of sons, basically, meaning son up there, not kids. He has an incredible amount of blood on his hands for Americans who have either directly died by ingesting drugs or directly died in drug wars, those sort of things. There's no way anybody with any common sense whatsoever could argue otherwise, removing the Maduro regime is going to have a positive reduction in drug addiction, drug overdoses, drug poisoning, and overall crime. It does not matter how you cut that. I don't know how anybody in their right mind could argue against this stuff. I mean, Natasha here, and again, so what I did here is I just went to X and said, tell me about Venezuelan drugs in America, the problem. So she said yesterday, we've already been mourning American deaths. Tens of thousands lost every year to fentanyl and other drugs trafficked from Venezuela under Maduro's regime. Those are real U.S. casualties. The blood was on American streets long before any military action began. So before I read some more of this stuff, so it's okay, but the globalists, the liberals, whatever you want to call them, it's okay for these guys to kill our citizens with drugs and drugs laced with fentanyl, but it's not okay for us to stop them from doing that. I mean, I don't know what to say. I mean, I'm trying not to throw out a bunch of ad hominem attacks because it's not really necessary when there's this much evidence against them, but it just makes me shake my head that anybody in their right mind could believe this stuff. So moving on down, look at Mr. Samuel. Tell that to millions of Americans dying of drug substances that are being shipped directly from Venezuela to the USA through a cartel that is headed by Maduro. He's into drugs, trafficking, and I'm sure the USA will not make such accusations without credible evidence. We've had evidence for years, for crying out loud. We've the CIA on the ground. Not that the CIA are, all that and what. But listen to the next one here. Dear Father, please pray for the estimated 2025, 1,880 to 2,710 U.S. deaths from Venezuelan transited drugs. Lord, have mercy. I would be willing to bet that is a fraction of what the real number is. And this is good here. So I'm going to read from the bottom up here. So Trump says the United States of America successfully carried out a large-scale strike against Venezuela and its leader, President Nicolás Maduro, who has been, along with his wife, captured and flown out of the country. This operation was done in conjunction with U.S. law enforcement. Details to follow. There will be a news conference today at 11 a.m. at Mar-a-Lago. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Under Secretary of State Jacob something, for years the globalist establishment preached appeasement while a narco-terrorist turned Venezuela into a criminal outpost. That era of weakness is over. President Trump just delivered the ultimate justice. Maduro's in custody, a massive victory for the rule of law and American strength. The free ride for dictators is finished. Now, what's interesting, and you've heard me say this countless times, follow the money. Wait till we get to the section on bribing American officials, especially senators. How about 60 senators on both sides of the aisle? Wait till we get to that. It's a barn burner, man. So scrolling on down, yesterday, this is right on cue from John here. He says, won't have to wait long for all the complaints of the terrorist criminal-loving DNC to come out. Don't matter that most likely over 1 million Americans have died because of drugs coming from Venezuela. It's just insane. Let me play this last video here from Donald Trump, then we'll move into the third segment. But I'm not going to comment on it first. 1 minute, 6 seconds.
When you come out and when you leave the room, you'll see that we just, over the last few minutes, literally shot out a boat, a drug-carrying boat, a lot of drugs in that boat. And you'll be seeing that and you'll be reading about that. It just happened moments ago. And our great general, head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, who's been so incredible, including what took place in Iran, knocking out potential nuclear power for a long time to come. I think within a month they would have had it. We didn't do what we did. But he gave us a little bit of a briefing. And you'll see. And there's more where that came from. We have a lot of drugs pouring into our country, coming in for a long time. And we just, these came out of Venezuela and coming out very heavily from Venezuela. A lot of things are coming out of Venezuela. So we took it out, and you'll get to see that after this meeting is over. When you come out.
So obviously this was back away, September 2nd, 2025. But I don't know that an administration could have been more patient in basically saying, look, we're going to start picking, around the edges of what you criminals and enemies are doing to our country. And if you stop, then maybe we can negotiate something. But if you keep doing it, you're going to pay a heavy price, FAFO. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. Let's look at one more here. This is from Grok. Somebody asked Grok this question. Based on DEA's 2025 National Drug Threat Assessment and UNODC's World Drug Report 2025, Venezuela is not the largest supplier of illegal drugs to U.S. key suppliers. Includes cocaine, mainly Colombia, transited via Mexico, fentanyl manufactured in Mexico using Chinese precursors, meth, heroin, primarily from Mexico. So I would not agree with Grok's assessment that Venezuela's had limited involvement. That's just not the case. But it doesn't matter. I'm reading this for a very specific purpose. This actually sets the stage for what's coming out of the Mexican president's mouth. And we'll get to that in a minute as well. But she clearly knows that they're next. We dealt with Venezuela. Now we're going to deal with Mexico and these other countries as well. So with that being said, let's move into segment number 3. And this is on the topic of elections, okay? So Maduro has played a huge part in rigging elections around the world, not just in Venezuela, and doing it for pay. So his regime has worked on behalf of Iran, China, Russia, and our own Democrat Party. I'm telling you, wait until you get to the bombshell part of this podcast of Venezuelan officials coming forward and saying, oh, by the way, we were paying off these 60 senators. Stay tuned for that. So here's the deal. Venezuelan Smartmatic software played the key role in stealing the 2020 election right here in America. How do we know that? We know that from the system images that Tina Peters was able to secure. And the judge who would not allow that evidence to be introduced was voted into office by those same machines. He's probably one of the most disgusting people in an official position in our entire country. But removing the Maduro regime is going to go a long ways towards restoring election integrity in America and many other countries as well. Like Canada is a great example. So actually, I'm going to come back to that video that I had queued up because I want to show you this. This is a friend of mine, Jeff O'Donnell. And Jeff is a forensics expert when it comes to data. One of the smartest people I've ever met in my life. And his website here is fingerprintsofraudthemovie.com. And I would highly encourage you to check it out. Those who've been following us for any amount of time know that I've had Jeff on my podcast numerous times. He did the forensics on the disk images that Tina Peters was able to secure. And then he split it up into a bunch of pieces so that it wasn't one ginormous video. So I think there's 7 or 8 components to it, 7 right there, plus a bonus. And they're all, if memory serves me right, in like 45-minute time frame. He goes through everything in excruciating detail. Now, if you haven't heard of Smartmatic and their software, this is a Venezuelan software company, and it's the software that runs on, shocking, Dominion voting machines, which have now been renamed Liberty something because they were bought by somebody else. At a very high level, and I'm paraphrasing, I'm oversimplifying, but essentially, did the mail-in ballots, the bullshit mail-in ballots, play a role in 2020? They played a role in 2024 too, by the way. Yeah, absolutely. Were they the difference between the baloney we're supposed to believe? Look at it this way. If you look at Barack Obama 2 elections, Hillary Clinton, and Kamala Harris, they all got 60 some odd million votes, 65, 66, 67 million, right? Joe Biden gets 81 million. So when you think, okay, well, that must mean that his opponent, the Republican opponent, Donald Trump, must have got 15 million less votes to equal the same number of voters. Well, that's not the case. 15 million votes appeared out of nowhere in 2020 and disappeared again in 2024. And why is that? Well, the Smartmatic software has the ability to put multipliers on votes. Again, I'm oversimplifying, but I would encourage you to check out Jeff's work. It's flawless. It's impeccable. From somebody from high tech, I'm telling you, this guy, my friend Jeff, crossed his T's, dotted his I's, and completely nailed this. So mail-in votes, let's say they come in, when they were scanned, one vote was not sent to Edison, which is where everything's collated for federal elections. There would be an opportunity for an administrator to put a multiplier on it. Okay, so this is one mail-in vote, nothing down vote, just Joe Biden. That's it. Joe Biden, Kamala Harris. Do you want to multiply it by 50? Do you want to multiply it by 100? Yes. Click, boom, off it went. That one mail-in vote, which was bullshit to start with, turned into 50 or 100 when it was tallied up at Edison. So that particular behavior that was the force multiplier in 2020. I can't get into details, but I can tell you that force multiplier was neutered in 2024. And the people who did that, hats off to them, because they probably saved our country. That plus the campaign, when I tell somebody in our audience, make sure you go to the polls on such and such a date, makes zero difference in the outcome because our people vote the same way that we do, right? So we were given a strategy by my friend Jason Wilson, in addition to 3,400 other podcasters. And if you've been following us for any period of time, you probably get sick of hearing me say, when you go to the polls on November the 5th, take somebody with you who doesn't normally vote. Let's make this too big to rig. That's what we did. We were able to overcome the cheating by doing that, number one. Number two, the force multiplier of saying take one bullshit mail-in vote for Kamala Harris and convert it to 50, the multiplier didn't happen. So there was still rampant cheating. She still got accredited with way more votes than what she really got. But the fact of the matter is you cannot argue it that you had hundreds of thousands of votes coming in the middle of the night in swing states in 2020 that 100% went to Joe Biden. And could they count 500,000 votes in the blink of an eye? No, they counted 100,000 votes and multiplied it, or 50,000 and multiplied it, sort of thing. It was the multiplier that got it. If you want to learn more, go to Fingerprints of the Fraud, fingerprintsofraudthemovie.com. My good friend Jeff O'Donnell, he will give you all of the nitty gritty. So moving on from there, Trump just posted this video about Dominion voting machine fraud. You think the timing is coincidence? He posted this yesterday. These are chess pieces being lined up. I'll tell you what, the people who worked to actively steal 2020 and also tried to steal it in 2016, they just didn't count on the tsunami of Trump voters coming out of the woodwork. There's got to be some people sweating right now. So a Venezuelan military intelligence whistleblower confirmed the CIA outsources election rigging like Smartmatic and Dominion from Venezuela. Unfrickin' believable. 5 minutes, 33 seconds. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but I will play a good part of it.
I found that there were about 25,000 ballots that were not printed from the official Dominion PDF ballot. In other words, the printing process, appearance is completely different than what you would get from a first-generation PDF printing.
We had approximately 25,000 ballots that were not created from the PDF that is used for the election process. So in other words, the election provider comes up with ballots, and it's specific to a geographical area, because the person that lives in this neighborhood might not be voting for the same people that live in that neighborhood or another neighborhood. So here in Maricopa County, from memory, you had 5,012 or something like that, just over 5,000 different permutations and combinations to the ballots. Then that's multiplied by 2 because there's a Spanish version that's available for each one of these ballots, but it's the same ballot with the same people, just in a different language. So we've got we'll just say 5,000 different ballots for now that are created ahead of time, and those are created in PDF. Now, the big reason why is that you have a third party send out mail-in ballots, so those have to be created in advance. And second, for your early voting, you have vote on demand. So in other words, even if I live way out in the corner of the county, but I work downtown, I could go to something downtown that could print my ballot from my area, and I could vote here. It's convenient. A lot of people do that. So these PDFs are created in advance. They're obviously good quality PDFs, and when they're printed, they should look roughly or exactly the same. In this group of ballots, I find that the quality is severely degraded from what a PDF would be as if printed on demand, or if printed by your third-party provider who prints these all the time.
I'm Eric Spakeen. I'm a forensic chemist and a forensic document analyst. That means I deal with all aspects of question documents, when they were made, if they've been altered, changed, or added to, and how long ink has been on paper. I was asked if I had experience in election matters to look at primarily printing processes, machine copied marks, CPS code, which is a counterfeit protection system. And I said that I did, and I traveled to Arizona with 3 other people from my office that I had. Number one is that there were a series of ballots that I examined the photographs of, and Dominion, as the election subcontractor, produced ballots for each of the zones or districts that were involved, at least in the area that I looked at here in Maricopa County. And there were 5,000 approximately, a little over, different ballots. As you know, in a state, there could be 2 different senator races. There could be 10 different House races, and all the permutations and combinations is what gives you the 5,000. So they create a final ballot for each one of these districts or zones or regions, so that when you go in and you give your name and it knows you're from this area, you would get this ballot to vote on all the issues that pertain to you, and only the issues that pertain to you. And I found that there were about 25,000 ballots that were not printed from the official Dominion PDF ballot. In other words, the printing process, appearance is completely different than what you would get from a first-generation PDF printing. As you can imagine, the lines are perfect. So they're perfectly straight, no breaks in them, the circles or ovals as they may be, and they're a solid line. When I examined some of the early voting ballots and election day ballots from various polling locations, there were about 25,000 that did not have printing from this perfect PDF, as you would expect, but instead had breaks in all the same places around an oval. So you can look at one of the ovals and there are imperfections in the line, and they're in the same place on every single one of these ballots.
So I'll go ahead and stop it there. As many of you know, I feel like I've been black-pilled in recent years. I'm not holding my breath that there will be accountability, but if we do have accountability, it should be pretty damning. One can only hope. So the last piece for segment number 2 here is what I alluded to earlier. U.S. Homeland Security News. Alert. Panic in Mexico City as cartel-controlled President of Mexico, Claudia Sheinbaum, declares, if the world does not unite against Trump, then everyone is targeted and condemned to doom. She knows. She knows Mexico is next. And boy, howdy, I would not want to be in her shoes. So moving on from there, let's get into segment number 3. So segment number 3 looks at a few different things. So Maduro played. Oh, hold on a second. Maybe that was that segment number 3 that we just did. I'm losing track here. I think I did. Yeah. Segment number 4. Pardon me. Losing track of my segments. We normally do 5. So segment number 4, Maduro paid off an alarming number of American politicians, including U.S. senators, to block any and all things that were pro-America. Much of this financing came from Iran, China, and Russia. So check this out. Very interesting. Please read the background information to understand how U.S. senators received millions of dollars from the Maduro regime. They're traitors and should be prosecuted as such. Here is a list of the senators. Shame. So I'll look at these, but there's the next piece that I'm going to show you is where it gets really damning. So Venezuela's former chief of national intelligence, Hugo Carvajal, has officially released every U.S. senator who's on the Venezuela list of politicians who've been receiving millions of dollars in kickbacks from the Maduro regime and Venezuelan drug trafficking organizations that make up his government in exchange for using their government positions and influence to undermine President Trump and Secretary of War Pete Hegseth's ongoing war with these narco-terrorists. Every one of these senators is guilty of providing aid and comfort to the enemy during a time of war and has the blood of their fellow American citizens, hundreds of thousands of whom die of drug overdoses every year at the hands of these criminal drug trafficking organizations that bring deadly drugs into our country, on their hands. May each and every one of them be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, and their names forever live in shame for their treason. Below is every U.S. senator on the Venezuela list. So again, this list was released from an official in Maduro's government. Lisa Murkowski, Republican, or Rhino, I should say, Alaska. Shocking. Absolutely shocking, right? Mark Kelly, Democrat. Arizona. Ruben Gallego, Democrat, Arizona. Alex Padilla, Democrat, California. Adam Schiff, Democrat, California. Michael Bennett, Democrat, Colorado. John Hickenlooper, Democrat, Colorado. Richard Blumenthal, Democrat, Connecticut. Chris Murphy, Democrat, Connecticut. Chris Coons, Democrat, Delaware. John Ossoff, Democrat, Georgia. Raphael Warnock, Democrat, Georgia. Brian Schatz, Democrat, Hawaii. Mazie Hirano, Democrat, Hawaii. Dick Durbin, Democrat, Illinois. Tammy Duckworth, Democrat, Illinois. Chuck Grassley, Republican / Rhino, Iowa. Joni Ernst, Rhino, Iowa. Mitch McConnell, Rhino, Kentucky. Rand Paul, Rhino, Kentucky. Bill Cassidy, Rhino, Louisiana. Susan Collins, Rhino, Maine. Angus King, Independent, Maine. Chris Van Hollen, Democrat, Maryland. Angela Also Brooks, Democrat, Maryland. Elizabeth Warren, Democrat, Massachusetts. Ed Markey, Democrat, Massachusetts. Gary Peters, Democrat, Michigan. Elisa Slotkin, Democrat, Michigan. Amy Klobuchar, Democrat, Minnesota. Tina Smith, Democrat, Minnesota. Roger Wicker, Rhino, Mississippi. Deb Fisher, Rhino, Nebraska. Jackie Rosen, Democrat, Nevada. Catherine Cortez Masto, Democrat, Nevada. Jeannie Shaheen, Democrat, New Hampshire. Maggie Hassan, Democrat, New Hampshire. Cory Booker, Democrat, New Jersey. Andy Kim, Democrat, New Jersey. Martin Heinrich, Democrat, New Mexico. Ben Ray Lujan, Democrat, New Mexico. Chuck Schumer, Democrat, New York. Kirsten Gillibrand, Democrat, New York. Tom Tillis, Rhino, North Carolina. James Lankford, Rhino, I should say, Oklahoma. Ron Wyden, Democrat, Oregon. Jeff Merkley, Democrat, Oregon. Dave McCormick, Rhino, Pennsylvania. And there's another one even off the page. I mean, this is freaking huge, like absolutely huge, that they would come out and say, oh, by the way, these are the people that our government was giving money in your government, and every last one of them has got to ring a bell for you as far as, holy crap, what a bunch of crooked bastards. So with that being said, that is now the end of the fourth segment. And just for shits and grins, just because I don't know what the word is. I missed the past. Let's say I wasn't alive in the 1950s, but it was the golden era of America. This is kind of like, I'm going to have like a little intermission here before we do segments 5, 6, and 7 and wrap this podcast up with a little bit of nostalgia. Here we go. Anybody who's a baby boomer will remember this. My generation, Gen X, this was kind of before our time.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Delicious things to eat.
The popcorn can't be beat. The sparkling drinks are just dandy. The chocolate bars and the candy. So let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Wow, talk about a different era. So some of you probably noticed that this is not live. I'm actually pre-recording this just an hour or so before it gets broadcast because I have some other work to do with Dr. Mike on antenna testing. And once the sun goes down, which it kind of has here now, 80 meters for shortwave HF gets really, really strong. And we've got some testing to do before we bring you the mother of all comms videos. So if you've been commenting in the chat, it's because this is being pushed out as a live stream, but it's actually recorded in advance. So I won't see any of your comments until I come back and watch it again later on tonight. But with that being said, a couple of housekeeping things that I want to touch on. Number one, our private element server is not only up and running. Ro and Jason P have been doing an amazing job getting our beta testers off of our test instance onto our private server. So this is my server built my way with open source code that I verified multiple times is ultra secure with no back ends. Why did I go to the expense of doing that? And it's an expense, let me tell you. I did that so that we could not be censored, suppressed, or deplatformed. Some of you may remember last week, we got a strike at the end of a very Christian video for firearms policy violations on YouTube when there was nothing said about guns. There was nothing shown with guns. I appealed it. They reversed the decision, but they stopped us from streaming until actually I'll find out when I go to upload this broadcast in the next half hour or so. So building our own element server for our guardians is the most secure, most private way of dealing with Big Brother and Big Tech censorship. If they were to go to our ISP and cut our connection to the internet, I have daily images of the server. I'll just put it on another server on another internet provider in another country. I have 3 contingencies backed up. So we know at some point in time, the government will change, the administration will change, and they'll be coming after our stuff. And we're not going to allow the same thing that happened to Parler and other people to happen to us. The other reason I chose Element, it's built on the same code base as Signal, but has way more features. We'll be able to do webinars, for example. And it also scales to 200,000 members, whereas Signal barfs at 1,000 users in a group. So Ro and JP are going to be ready to start onboarding people on Tuesday from our existing Guardians chat. They have a methodology that they're going to follow. So don't call them, they'll call you. They will give you a personal invite and walk you through getting from Signal over onto Element. Again, I am unaware of anybody else in the survival prepping space that's built anything like what we have here for a secure community with great apps for your smartphone, shielded from big tech, shielded from, Big Brother. We can't be deplatformed, put it that way. And if you sign up as a Guardian, it's only $7.99 a month or $79.99 a year. You get 2 months for free. when you do it that way, and you get all the benefits. So I think we have maybe 10, 11, 12 channels now on Element. We've added some additional stuff like a dedicated channel for comms. We've added a women only, channel called the Guardian Angels, and it's run by Numachan and Sarah. And Sarah's actually going to get another channel of her own where she can post her firearms videos and training, which is just bad to the bone. With that being said, I do want to quickly thank our sponsors, carnivalt.com. This is the dog crack cocaine here. Our dogs go absolutely berserk for this. If you go to carnivalt.com, you can use code EATMEAT, all one word, get 10% off. The only thing you can't get 10% off on are the subscriptions, and that's because the margin's already cut to the bone. And I announced last week, and I'm going to announce it right now, that there's been massive increases in beef prices. Carnival's price, their wholesale price is jumping another 15% here imminently. They're gonna sell what they have for stock at the old prices, but either middle of January or before then, when they run out of their current stuff, the prices are going to have to go up because wholesale prices have gone up. Now is the time to go get Carnival. Sign up for a subscription, for the most level pricing that won't be all over the map. But I can't thank these guys enough. We do not get affiliate income from them. They pay us a monthly stipend to help us. We've got $5,300 a month in recurring software expenses, another $4,000 a month in ClearStar to vet people before we let them into our Guardian chat. Wasatch Wagyu. There's how you spell it. WASATCH Wagyu. Best jerky in the world. This stuff is incredible. They gave us a code last week, SD25, to get 25% off, but it runs out this coming week. So if you like jerky, the dill pickle, it's absolutely terrible. Don't buy the dill pickle. I will bear that burden. I will take all of the dill pickle because that's the kind of guy that I am. But everything else, feel free to fill up your pantry. Man, I make sandwiches out of this stuff. You can put it on charcuterie boards, the whole 9 yards. WasatchWagyu.com, SD25. Just like Carnival, we don't get affiliate income from them. They give us a stipend that helps us defer some of those expenses. We appreciate it very, very much. All right, so let's get into the home stretch here and start with segment number 5. So segment number 5? Segment number 5. See, this is throwing me off. Normally it's 5 segments, 3 before the middle point, 2 afterwards. All right. Oh, you know what I forgot to mention? Any receipts for Carnival or Wasatch Wagyu over $99, if you are an annual subscriber to the Guardians program, forward your receipt to support at survivaldispatch.com. I'll tack on 30 days free. All of the people who are on Carnival subscriptions, they forward them now to me each month. They paid to sign up in the first place. As long as they maintain that subscription with Carnival, they'll never pay again. I just keep tacking on 30 days every month. Okay, getting back on target here. So segment number 5, Maduro and his regime played a massive role in weaponizing mass migration against us on behalf of our adversaries, the globalist elite, all of the people who are hell-bent on destroying America and American culture. Why are they trying to destroy us? We're the firewall between freedom and globalism. If we go down, the whole world goes down. The WEF, Agenda 2030, the money kings get exactly what they want. We'll all live in 15-minute cities. We won't be allowed to leave. We'll have social credit scores that'll dictate whether or not we can do certain things. And if you're following our 9/11 2.0 series, Long War series, when that kicks off, they will use that excuse for Patriot Act 2.0 to accomplish all of those things. But anyway, back to Maduro here. So we've had, corrupt NGOs working with the Venezuelans and other people who hate our guts. But then on top of that, you got Maduro emptying his prisons during the Biden installation and sending all of his inmates here. It's the same thing that Castro did in Cuba, for crying out loud, in the early 70s during the Cuban migrant crisis. I was a kid. I remember, I think it was 1974. I was like 5 years old. I remember going to South Florida to see Uncle Fred and seeing the camps of Cubans underneath I-95, just like the, oh my goodness, isn't that awful? I'm trying to, what's the movie with Al Pacino again? The cocaine movie with him in it? Scarface, just like you see in that movie. Anyway, in addition to that, Maduro unleashed the TDA gang on us. And we're now in a situation where we have a massive cleanup job if we're ever going to reclaim our country. If you've been watching lately, you've heard me say 2 words for 2026, remigration and accountability. If we don't make that happen, we're in really, really bad shape. So remigration, Trump's move past Maduro, opens the border for Venezuelans to go home. 136,000 arrived under Biden. Nearly 1 million more could return once Venezuela stabilizes. You know what? Some of these people are legitimate immigrants, and I don't think that they necessarily have to go as long as they're loyal to our country and not lawbreakers, but the rest of them, they've got to be sent back. But let's move down here. Dr. Phil. Yeah, this is good. And again, all I did was just put a quick search into X to see what would come up. And there's so many sources of information out there that support everything that I've touched on here for this particular segment. Democrats allowed Nicolás Maduro to empty his prisons and mental asylums and send them to America as refugees. Joe Biden's administration helped Venezuela dump millions into U.S. soil. 29 seconds.
So you're telling me that DHS has acknowledged that Venezuela, for example, is emptying their prisons and their rehabilitation centers with the understanding you get out if you leave here and go to the United States?
Yes.
And DHS.
So I want to stop it for a second. That's Victor Avila, who's a friend of mine. So if you remember the Fast and the Furious shoot up in Mexico, just south of Mexico City, where Agent Zapata died because they were jumped by cartel members. There was a complete setup. Victor was the other officer. Agent Zapata died in Victor's arms. And that was a situation where they were in Mexico City. And I'm pretty sure it was DEA, but it might have been ICE. I always get Victor's background mixed up on that for some reason. But they got this call that said, hey, we need y'all to go to this place in the southern end of Mexico, and you got to go right away. Nobody takes Highway 58 that goes north-south of Mexico but cartels. They call it the highway of death. And this, of course, was when Obama and the Fast and Furious gun stuff was going on, the ATF doing all sorts of crooked things. So Victor and his partner started heading south on Highway 58. They were surrounded by cartels. They were shot up hundreds of times. It's a miracle that Victor survived. And he's been on my podcast a couple times as well.
Yes, has in writing said, we know that's happening. We know they're coming here. We're processing them in and have no idea where they are.
Correct.
It's unbelievable stuff, like just absolutely unbelievable stuff. Let's pick off a couple more here and see what happens. This guy says 3% of the entire population of Venezuela came into America under Biden. Stephen Miller, this is what we mean by judicial tyranny. Biden mass imported illegals from Venezuela, including criminals, gave them welfare and social security numbers. President Trump won an election promising to end the invasion. A rogue Marxist judge just ordered Biden's amnesty continued. This is why I keep saying accountability. If you're new to my podcast, the federal judiciary is not a co-equal branch of government. They are not part of the Supreme Court. They are a construct of Congress. If you look in the early 1800s, I believe it's the Judiciary Act of 1801. Then the next one in 1802 is when we blew up all of the federal judiciary because of the bullshit that was going on then, is what we're seeing now. Extremely partisan crap from people who were never elected and appointed to life. And they think that they're on the same level as the executive, but they're not. So go back to Civics 101, right? You have the legislature, aka Congress, which is a combination of the House of Representatives and the Senate. You have the Supreme Court, and you have the executive. Again, the federal judiciary construct of Congress, they are not on par, and these assholes just make these bad decisions, anti-American decisions. Why? Because they're on the take. like everything else, just follow the frickin' money, right? Let me see what else is down here. If there's anything in here. Yeah, that was Venezuela right there. An excellent take on Venezuela. Y'all have absolutely no idea, especially the extortion that was going on between the Biden administration and Maduro to cause an estimation of 20% of the population to migrate from there. Let's actually listen to a little bit of what this girl has to say. It's 4.5 minutes. We won't listen to the whole thing, but we'll give her a say here. She basically says to all you Democrat politicians and your brain dead supporters, here's a message for you. Stop trying to explain Venezuela to Venezuelans.
Hi, my name is Paula, and I am Venezuelan, born and raised. I've lived in the United States for almost 10 years to the date, and I am an American citizen also, by the way. The main reason why I'm coming here today, I'm literally nobody, and if this reaches one person, my job here, that one person that didn't know what was happening in Venezuela, and now they do, my work here is done. I am outraged about the comments I've been seeing today. I made the mistake myself of going on social media and reading all the news outlets reporting on the news of the Venezuelan strikes, well, military strikes to remove Maduro. Thank you. And everybody, ton of Americans, and then from whatever you're from, but you've never been to Venezuela, you have no idea about the political situation in Venezuela, the history of Venezuela, and trying to be like our saviors. Like, I can't. Let me set some things straight. First of all, the regime has been going on since 1998 when Chavez was elected president. From there on, their country is the mess, in good words, that it is today. We have suffered a lot. The Senate was dissolved. The Constitution was changed. They bought the military, all the armed forces. Many people have been killed, kidnapped. You can go do the Google search yourself, or just ask, because clearly Google is not working for you people. 3 things I want to get across today. 1, Venezuelans are sad. No, we're not. This is literally the happiest day of our life. This is our second independence. We are still in shock, complete shock about what finally happened. We have been wanting this. We have been praying for this. We have been literally anybody that we have been able to go to and ask, and nobody listened to us. So we are happy. Enjoy. And even if you're a Venezuelan in Venezuela or a Venezuelan outside of Venezuela, in any country that you are, if you left 10, 15 years ago, 5 days ago, or a week ago, we are all happy. So don't worry about us. We're happy. United States only attack.
So, well, actually, let me let y'all hear this. Let me back up just that little bit here.
Happy. The United States only attacking Venezuela because of the oil. People, we do not control our oil. We haven't seen our oil. Russia, Iran, Cuba, China.
I'll go ahead and stop it there, and I'll just throw in as well that we have the largest oil reserves, known oil reserves in the entire world here in the United States. Not to mention the fact that Venezuela's oil is extremely heavy crude. It's very low quality oil. It is nowhere near a top of the line product whatsoever. So not too sorry about seeing that go. So let's move into the next segment number 6. So Maduro has been one of the biggest forces behind funding U.S. Protests and supposed grassroots uprisings, pro-Hamas groups, BLM, Antifa. I know sometimes the money goes from China to, Venezuela, then it comes here. It could come from Russia, Iran, all those guys, bad actors, to oppose pro-America policies, dupe the weak-minded amongst us into equating patriotism with being a Nazi, and supporting efforts to assassinate people like Donald Trump, Charlie Kirk, many other high-profile real Americans, TM, Randy Nance. It's absolutely disgusting. Check this out from yesterday. Journalist Nate Friedman on the ground in New York City confirms the hands-off Venezuela protest is paid. He confirms it's the People's Forum NGO funding it, which is backed by a CCP-linked billionaire living in China. $20 million in funding to protest. 56 seconds.
All the signs are already propped up They're just against the walls.
Awesome.
Oh, thank you.
What you do.
Thank you
for everything you do.
Thank you so much. Bless you. Thank you. Hey, Manolo, how you doing? My name is Nate. Nice to meet you. I'm good. How are you? Would you mind doing an interview right now? Can I ask why? You're the leader of the People's Forum. You got $20 million from Roy Neville Singham to protest. Can I ask why you don't want to speak with me right now? Do you deny that you got $20 million to protest? You don't deny that? How are you spending that $20 million to protest? I know you're paying David Chung $75K a year. Anyone else on the payroll? Oh, David, what's up, man? I didn't recognize you. Hey, you're back, buddy. How you doing? $20 million to paid protest. Won't deny it. Won't deny it. Because it's
unbelievable, just unbelievable. I mean, this is sedition, essentially, right? Treason and sedition. There it is. This is footage from the San Diego, California hands-off Venezuela protests getting ready to take place today. This was 5 hours ago. What do you notice? There are the exact same protest signs used in New York, Chicago, Florida, Boston, and Portland. This is paid and organized by the CCP-linked billionaire Neville Roy Singham. He's given $20 million to the People's Forum NGO for protests. Funds the Party for Socialism and Liberation Chicago. Singham's residence is in Shanghai. His business ties are to the CCP. He attends CCP-related events. He funds media outlets echoing Chinese state narratives. 32 seconds.
I want to dive with it, so I initially got a body.
I know we're gonna see.
I don't know what y'all think, but I mean, that's pretty crazy. I saw dozens of people, maybe. Weird thing. There's another one from Nick. Paid anti-Venezuelan war protesters were caught in New York City, Chicago, Orlando, Boston, using the exact same signs at each event. Look at the U.S. out, no blood signs, the black text on white backgrounds. Everything the Democrat Party does is fake. Paid protesters are outside the White House chanting, hands off Venezuela. Others were in Times Square in New York City calling for the release of Maduro. Democrats are on the wrong side of history like usual. And let's have a listen to this guy before I move on to the next part. There's no way this New York City protest was organic. They had pre-printed Venezuela signs and banners in just a few hours, 1 minute, 29 seconds. I'll just play part of this.
Riddle me this, Batman. Explain to me how, after Trump goes into Venezuela in the middle of the night, a couple of hours later, in New York, you have an organized march with thousands of people with banners, signs, flags, and the signs are all matching. They've all been printed. They were at the same print press. Who's working overtime? Who's setting this up? Are these guys paid? Like, there is no way.
So we know, of course, that they're paid. And again, that money has flowed through Maduro in addition, to direct from some of these people. Pretty crazy stuff. This guy here, I'm going to move on, but this guy, same thing. He's like, you have to be completely blind not to realize what's going on. So part of the indignation on the part of these, liberals, leftists, whatever you want to call them, is that Trump is a war criminal. He hit Venezuela. The president can't do that. We need to impeach him. Blah, 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 blah. Boy, let me tell you, there is a massive list of countries that Biden, Obama, George W. all bombed with zero congressional input. The Congress is pissed off because they weren't told in advance as far as this mission was concerned. Thank God they weren't, because wait till I get to this piece coming up here where Hakeem Jeffries, I think it was Hakeem Jeffries, it's in my notes here, you're going to see it come up. tried to tell Maduro that they were fixing to capture him, but by the time he got the intel, it was too late. But check this out. Countries bombed by the U.S. under the Obama administration: Afghanistan, Pakistan, Libya, Yemen, Somalia, Iraq, Syria. And in each of those instances, you can see it in the map, there was no authorization from Congress to do any of that. So then I don't use Google myself because it's a whole bunch of reasons coming from high tech. Just, they're not trustworthy at all. So I threw this in because I wanted to see what a twisted, left-leaning lens would produce when asked what countries did Obama, Biden, and Bush bomb without congressional approval. Presidents Obama, Biden, and Bush, George W. and George H.W. all conducted military operations, including airstrikes, in various countries without explicit new congressional authorization, relying on prior authorizations like the AUMF for Iraq, Afghanistan, UN mandates, or claims of inherent executive authority, often targeting groups like ISIS, Obama, Houthis, Biden, or in conflicts in Libya, Obama, Syria, Biden and Trump, Yemen, Biden, Iraq, Afghanistan, Bush, leading to ongoing debates over presidential war powers. And it just goes on and on and on. So it's amazing how, I don't even know, the not real Americans always squeal over how Donald Trump needs to be impeached. He broke the law and he's not allowed to do that. That's an international war crime, blah, 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 blah. But their so-called heroes have been doing it all along without repercussions. So this kind of slides into the seventh and final segment here, which is, Maduro collaborated with adversaries to promote communism in America, meaning, with our adversaries, China, Russia, etc., fueling liberal backlash to Maduro's capture despite Venezuelan celebrations of his removal for causing economic devastation, poverty, and hunger. I pulled up a gazillion links here. There's no way that I can play them all for you. Let's listen to this young man, though. A Venezuelan has something to say about this topic. 1 minute, 6 seconds.
Venezuela. People are criticizing Trump for what he did in Venezuela. They say he bombed and kidnapped our president. No. Let me be clear. That man was never our president. He's a dictator. We didn't vote for him. Our elections were stolen. And when we protested, our kids were sent to prison. Minors were tortured. Girls were forced to prostitute themselves in prisons just to get food, to get a piece of bread. And where were all of you then? Where were all of you, liberals? Where were all of you? Where were all of you? You said nothing. You did nothing. But now you suddenly care about international law? I mean, now you all talk about human rights? Maduro didn't lead Venezuela. He kidnapped an entire country. So, no, Trump didn't kidnap anyone. No, he did not. He removed our kidnapper. And for that, we're thankful. You can divide politics all you want, but don't tell Venezuelans, do not tell Venezuelans how to feel about being free from a dictatorship.
There's a gazillion of these out there, right? Check this next one out. I don't necessarily have to play long videos here because Venezuelan refugees gather in Buenos Aires, Argentina to celebrate Maduro's capture. It just kills me, right? You've got these, especially the mentally ill white women between the ages of, say, 20 and 60 that are all jacked up on SSRIs, railing against Trump and how we did this evil thing and how we did the Venezuelan people wrong. And the Venezuelan people are like, yeah, no, thank God this dictator who was not legally arrested or elected, has been taken out of power. It's just, they can't get out of their own way to see what's going on. Venezuelans are celebrating en masse in Buenos Aires, Argentina, the overthrow of Maduro by President Trump and the U.S. military. The size of this crowd, it's absolutely huge. And this is going on around the world. This one here. Yes, you knew it would happen. Venezuelans now doing the Trump YMCA dance. I won't play the whole thing. I'm telling you, this stuff is crazy. Check this out. Statues are being toppled in Venezuela. There's Maduro. That's a statue of Maduro. Just look at that. And the mentally ill amongst us here in America want us to believe that we have somehow wronged Venezuela by stopping a dictator who was the forebearer of a massive amount of poverty and hunger, the cause of that in Venezuela, the cause of multiple American deaths, like many American deaths, drugs, crime, all this stuff. They're not right in the frickin' head, man. Next one up, well said. I won't play this whole one either, but it'll just give you another piece. I think the girl on the inside, if memory serves me right, she's one of these SSR eye-popping white American women who doesn't know her ass from a hole in the ground.
States military into Venezuela last night to kidnap Maduro and his wife to somewhere. We don't know where they are. We don't know if they're alive. And now Trump has announced that the U.S. is going to temporarily take over control and operations of Venezuela.
White liberals in America are complaining about Nicolás Maduro, while Venezolanos in Venezuela are out celebrating that their dictator is gone. If this doesn't tell you how evil and disturbed white liberals in America are, I don't know what will. They're willing to allow an entire country to be exploited as long as it fits their political agenda and goes against Trump. Think about that. Nicolás Maduro publicly rigged elections, killed his own people, had actual re-education camps, made anybody who opposed him disappear. And this is who they're defending now. Believe me, I was worried when Trump said that the United States would oversee the transition of power in Venezuela. But here's a reality that no one wants to admit. Maduro didn't just destroy Venezuela. He destroyed the entire system of checks and balances.
So I'll stop that there because I do have a fair number teed up here. I want to play because this is funny as heck. I'm kind of trying to make this last segment kind of like the old chapter 3 where everybody gets a laugh. I showed a no war with Venezuela protester how Venezuelans are celebrating in the streets. Brain.exe stopped working.
You should check out that communist flag over there.
What brings you out here today?
I'm organized with the Revolutionary Communists of America. We're out here to say hands off Venezuela.
By the way, there's a law, I think it went on the books, 1956, that makes it illegal to be a communist in America. And you can look that up and take that to the bank, by the way.
And we unequivocally stand with the people of Venezuela against U.S. imperialist aggression.
What do you think about the people of Venezuela celebrating on the streets?
What?
What do you think about the people of Venezuela celebrating on the streets today?
I saw images of Venezuelans being bombed after the U.S., bombed Caracas. So I'm not sure what you're talking about, but yeah, I think you should definitely
show me the bombings that you're talking about. I didn't see any.
I don't know. I just saw it on Reddit. It was on the front page of
Reddit.
So.
Okay. Reddit. Yes.
What do you think about the people celebrating, the hundreds of thousands of people that are in the streets celebrating?
I have yet to see it. Can you show me that?
Yeah.
Sure. U.S. imperialism.
People celebrating on the streets. What do you think about that?
I mean, at the end of the day, I stand with the people of Venezuela against U.S. imperialism. The U.S. has no right to bomb the people of Venezuela. The U.S. has no right to kidnap another
Why are they all
another...
celebrating? Why are they celebrating?
I don't know. Do you have a correspondent there you can ask? I'm here demonstrating against. I'm here demonstrating against U.S. imperialism and the U.S. intervention.
Is this AI though? These images of everybody
I don't know.
celebrating?
You're the one showing me the video, so let me know. You're showing me the source.
I don't know. I don't think it's AI because it's being published by multiple news organizations. So just what are your thoughts on it?
I'm here protesting U.S. intervention.
I understand that.
U.S. imperialism.
That's too much. Check this one out. Portlanders chant, "Free Maduro, free him now." Meanwhile, Venezuelans in their home nation cheer for their newfound freedom Make it make sense. 29 seconds. Wow. Just wow. A message from a Venezuelan citizen telling us the truth about what was really going on in his country, who the real president should have been, and how grateful he is to President Trump and his administration.
This is a message for my American friends watching the news today in English. There is a serious inaccuracy in the coverage. Venezuela is not undergoing a regime change. Venezuela already has a democratically elected president, Edmundo Gonzalez. He is the president. Nicolás Maduro is not the president. He never was. He stole the last election and led a criminal organization linked to terrorism and drug trafficking, El Cartel de los Soles. And today, thanks to the vision and courage of the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, the decisive leadership of the President Donald Trump, and the actions of Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, the United States has finally recognized a fundamental truth. Protecting our hemisphere from terrorism, drug cartels, and authoritarian ideologies is a matter of national security for the United States.
It's, again, all of these Venezuelans. I haven't seen a single person from Venezuela shed a tear for Nicolás Maduro. There was some protest somewhere, by the way, and then it was quickly discovered that the handful of people who were in favor of Maduro had all been paid to do it. Venezuelans are raiding warehouses controlled by Maduro's forces, and they're finding massive stockpiles of medicines and food. It's becoming evident that the regime was keeping it all to themselves to manufacture artificial shortages and make the public dependent on the regime. I mean, you can just see all of these medical things. We're running a little bit long on time, so I'm trying to get through some of this. So this is where we kind of officially get into, the old chapter 3 sort of stuff, funny ha-ha stuff. But at the end of the day, you can say what you will, but Trump got this one right. He absolutely got this one right. Removing Maduro is going to go further towards making America great again than any other single thing any president has done in many decades. There's so many things here. We've got our enemies off of our doorstep. We've stopped the massive flow of drugs that have been stepped on with fentanyl. We've stopped human trafficking, which has still been going on, even though we've shut the border down. Watch some of my other episodes for information on how and why that is still occurring. It's very profitable. We've stopped the flow of TDA gang members, the whole 9 yards. I'm telling you, this is just a great thing that President Trump did for us. He doesn't get them all right. No human being does. And I think that the people who say, oh, well, Donald Trump made this one mistake, therefore I'm bailing on him. Show me the perfect person. Were we supposed to vote for Kamala Harris? Really? Really? That would have been the better option. Anyway, if you think it's okay for a piece of shit communist to team up with the rest of our adversaries, causing direct harm to our country, you are not a real American, TM Randy Nance. And maybe you should just go live in a communist country if you love it so much. I found, I don't know how many funny videos to wrap this thing up with. This person says AI is getting out of hand. 32 seconds. So I've got a handful here. I'm not going to play them all.
FBI, open up! Please. Yes, please. Yes, please. Peace to the better. Peace to the better. Sweep us, sweep us, sweep us, sweep
Oh my God. I'm telling you, there's so many out there. Trump needs to be impeached for this.
Welcome to the party, pal. This is kidnapping. Shut your fucking mouth. This is illegal, man. Hey, you flooded America with your drugs, asshole. That was illegal. That's all lies. All CIA lies. Well, the wiretaps say otherwise, punk. You armed terrorists and poisoned our kids. You turned Venezuela into a toilet. Where'd all that cash go? Your pockets? Cuba? You bombed my country! You murderers! You declared war on America first, brah! We got the wiretaps, the banks, the witnesses. You armed killers to push your coke across the border, you son of a bitch! Kids are dead in Ohio because of your product, asshole! You proud of that, tough guy? Look at you! You turned Venezuela into a fucking graveyard. People eating zoo rats while you stash billions in Swiss accounts? Where's the money, Nicky? Huh? Your Cuban bosses? Spill it! You bombed my palace! You murdered my people! Well, you murdered first, dipshit. With every kilo that hit American soil. You started this war. I want your contacts in Colombia. I want everything. We had treason to the list. That means life in prison, scumbag. Yep. No parole. None. No island. Nope. Just a concrete cell. Lots of penis. Where's the tough guy at, huh? Yesterday you were on TV with your chest out screaming? Now look at you. You're nothing but a fucking pussy. I grab pussy. I want to go back to my family. I want to go back home. Want a Kleenex, pussy? Where's that fire-breathing dictator at, huh? You were a big man yesterday. Now you're crying like a little bitch. Pathetic.
It goes on. That's barely half of it. I got a few short ones, and we'll put a lid on this thing. From Planet of Memes, 15 seconds. Trump's got his coke in a big bag. Oh my God. Next one up here. This person says they're getting really creative. 16. Next one up. Maduro looking out his bedroom window at 3 a.m. Not this morning, yesterday morning. 10 seconds. Oh my God. Next one up. This is the Russian air defense in Venezuela, 19 seconds. Oh my God. And we got one last one here. Everything is ready for Nicolás Maduro's welcome. Even Mario Delgado is jealous of him. With a little saliva, please. 26 seconds. There is all kinds of funny videos out there with him, locked up with Diddy. And he says, "Oh, I see you're out of oil. I'll share mine with you." Oh my God, some freaking crazy funny stuff. So we did get a couple laughs in tonight on Sunday evening. But anyway, that's basically it for today's special report. I don't usually do this on Sundays, but like I said, I wanted to get some of this information out there, get ahead of things before we return tomorrow night at our normal time, 7 p.m. Eastern, with the next episode in our long war series, Red State versus Blue State Economies. The theme is diverging systems, and the summary you could call economic models fracturing along ideological lines, creating competing financial realities. So with that being said, I want to give one more quick shout out to our friends at Carnivalt, carnivalt.com. Pardon me, they announced last week their wholesale beef prices are going up 15% imminently. And what they have in stock, they will sell at the current pricing. But when it runs out, or mid-January, whichever comes first, they're going to have to pass on that price increase like everybody else. Use the code EATMEAT, all one word. By the way, the second I picked this up, my female pit bull down here, she's a Carnivalt crack whore now. She's like, oh, Carnivalt can. Anyway, use code EATMEAT, all one word. Get 10% off everything but subscriptions. Subscriptions will give you a significant element of protection against price increases. It'll be smaller than what the other ones are because they always cut it to the bone on the subscriptions. Check out our friends, wasatchwagyu.com, W-A-S-A-T-C-H, Wagyu, W-A-G-Y-U.com. Greg gave us a code last week. It's good for 1 week, SD25, get 25% off. This is by far and away the most supple, best jerky in the world. I want to say they got like 19 flavors. They have sticks as well. The sticks are good. There ain't nothing wrong with them whatsoever. But the strips are absolutely insane. Like I said, I make sandwiches out of these. You put them on charcuterie boards, whatever. Carnival and Wasatch Wagyu, if you spend $99 or more and you are an annual subscriber to the Guardians, forward that receipt to support at survivaldispatch.com. I'll tack 30 days onto the end of your subscription at no additional charge. And last comment on that, our Element server is up and running. It's my server configured my way with open source software. I'm a veteran of high-tech programmer, systems engineer, network engineer, as well as executive. And I went to the added expense and effort of doing this because I want to make sure we're at arm's length from big tech. Last week kind of did it for me, by the way, where we had an awesome guest, Pastor Sam Jones. We got right to the very end. There was like 4 minutes left in the video, and they nuked us on YouTube, gave us a strike, and said it was for firearms policy violations. There was no guns. There was no talk of guns. It was all because it was strong Christian content. I appealed it. They turned around and restored the video, but they completely killed the momentum for it. And then they banned us for live streaming. And then they said, well, that's standard practice when you get a strike. And I'm like, we didn't get a strike. You let it go. You reversed it. I'll be interested to see what happens with that channel this week. That's our small channel, like 4,500 subscribers on the Survival Dispatch News channel on YouTube. It had over like 10,000 views, pardon me. Our big channel, 445,000 subscribers, struggles to get half as many views because we had so many gun videos out there that they suppressed the shit out of us. And before somebody says, well, Grand Thumb gets lots of views and stuff. Yeah, the rules are not the same for somebody who brings millions of people to the platform versus somebody who brings hundreds of thousands like us. And their entire goal is to bring people to their platform and keep them on their platform. And when that happens from somebody like a Grand Thumb, they turn a blind eye. How many videos does he have on forced reset triggers? I showed a training rifle that shoots 8mm projectiles from Unit Solutions. This is not a gun, can't be converted to a gun. It's not lethal. I showed one of my training sessions with it, and we got a strike for showing full auto machine gun footage. But Grand Thumb, he publishes one FRT video after another. Yes, an FRT is not a machine gun. I get it. Trust me. Firearms are in my wheelhouse. But you get the gist of what's going on with cyclic rate. The AI can't tell the difference in cyclic rate between an FRT and a machine gun. But when you're bringing millions of people to the platform, you get a pass on that kind of shit. So anyway, I have got to get to work with Dr. Mike on our next round of antenna testing. Again, that's why this was recorded just before it went live. So it's kind of live, but not live. Like you're an hour or two behind, but that's it at the max. I will be back tomorrow night with the entire crew with our next episode. Between now and then, if you would please like, share, comment, subscribe, I would appreciate it very much. God bless America. God bless our law enforcement officers. God bless our troops. And enjoy the closing video.